Before death, Sal Mineo reveals names of gay Hollywood actors. He dated in secret and isn't good. Sal Mineo, born January 10, 1939, in the Bronx, New York, was an American actor who rose to fame in the 1950s. He achieved international recognition with his role as John Plato Crawford in Rebel Without a Cause, 1955, starring alongside James Dean and Natalie Wood. For that performance, he earned an Academy Award nomination at just 16 years old, becoming one of the youngest actors ever nominated. Mineo's career later included roles in Exodus, 1960, and various stage productions. Despite his talent, his career struggled in later years. Tragically, he was murdered in Los Angeles in 1976 at age 37. Fame and Prejudice, at the height of his career. Sal Mineo embodied the image of youth and allure in Hollywood, with his intelligent charm, striking looks, and undeniable talent. He became one of the most sought-after young actors of the 1950s and early 1960s. His roles in Giant, 1956, and Exodus, 1960, solidified his reputation. While his 2 Academy Award nominations, both earned before the age of 23, remain an unbroken record of precocious brilliance. Critics saw him as one of the brightest rising stars, destined to join the ranks of Hollywood's leading men. Yet, behind the curtain of fame, Mineo's courage to live authentically placed him at odds with the industry. As one of the first actors rumored, and later confirmed, to be openly gay in an era when homosexuality was taboo, he faced the unforgiving consequences of Hollywood's unspoken rules. Studio executives labeled him too soft, stripping him of lead roles and confining him to minor appearances. His once promising career began to fade, not because of a lack of talent, but because of a society and industry unwilling to accept who he truly was. Sal Mineo's story became not only one of early brilliance, but also of how prejudice can dim even the brightest lights. Before he died, he left behind a secret list of Hollywood actors with whom he had homosexual relationships. James Dean and Sal Mineo's secret, among the myths and mysteries of Hollywood's golden era. Few stories are as haunting as the rumored love between Sal Mineo and James Dean. The two met during the filming of Rebel Without a Cause, 1955, where Dean played the troubled rebel Jim Stark and Mineo the fragile, lonely Plato. What began as a professional bond soon deepened into something more intimate, a secret affair hidden behind the walls of the Beverly Hills Hotel. For Mineo, still a teenager, Dean was not just a co-star, but his first great love, a relationship that carried both passion and danger. Their nights together, according to accounts whispered through Hollywood, were filled with intensity and vulnerability. Dean, already wary of the industry's ruthless gaze, often warned Mineo of the risks they faced. "Hollywood can kill you with just one headline," he once said, a chilling foreshadowing of what was to come. Mineo would later recall how Dean's fear was not exaggerated. Rumors swirled, and Dean allegedly received a threatening letter written in blood, an ominous sign of how dangerous it was to defy Hollywood's unspoken rules. Then came the tragedy. In September 1955, James Dean died in a violent car crash at the age of 24. While the official story pointed to reckless driving, darker whispers circulated. Some believed the accident had been engineered, with suspicions that Dean's brakes had been tampered with. For Mineo, the loss was catastrophic. He sank into grief and paranoia, unable to let go of the belief that Dean's death was more than a tragic accident. Years later, Mineo himself contributed to the strange aura surrounding Dean's legacy. In a desperate phone call to NBC, he allegedly claimed the existence of a sex tape featuring Dean, perhaps a final attempt to preserve their truth in a world determined to erase it. Shortly after, a fire consumed NBC's archives. and any such evidence, if it ever existed, vanished into smoke. Whether myth or reality, the story only fueled the legend of Dean's dangerous, untamed life and Mineo's broken heart. For Sal Mineo, the secret affair with James Dean was both a blessing and a curse. It gave him a taste of love at its most passionate, yet left him haunted by its abrupt and mysterious end. Dean's shadow followed him throughout his career, shaping his understanding of fame, danger, and vulnerability. What might have been a private romance became a tragic Hollywood secret, one that fused love, fear, and conspiracy into a legend that still endures. The secret affair of Mineo and Sherman. After the haunting loss of James Dean, Sal Mineo's search for intimacy led him into another secret, passionate relationship, this time with singer and actor Bobby Sherman. The two met during events at NBC in the mid-1960s, where Sherman was quickly becoming a teen idol, and Mineo, though struggling to maintain his stardom, still carried the aura of Hollywood's golden boy. Their connection was immediate, a mixture of admiration and need, blossoming into a romance that they both knew had to remain hidden. In public, Mineo worked hard to maintain appearances. He was often seen with Jill Howarth, the daughter of a powerful producer, and their relationship was covered by the press as if it were genuine. Behind closed doors, however, Sal's heart belonged to Bobby. They would meet discreetly, sharing stolen nights filled with both tenderness and fear, in an industry where being openly gay meant professional suicide. Secrecy was their only shield. But Hollywood's shadows are rarely kind to those who live in them. Paparazzi caught wind of the affair, trailing the two men with cameras. Worse still, Jill Howarth stumbled across a damning piece of evidence, a tape recording of an intimate conversation between Sal and Bobby, furious and betrayed. She passed the tape to the Los Angeles Times. When excerpts of the recording were leaked, the story erupted into scandal. The fallout was devastating. For Mineo, who had already been battling industry prejudice, the exposure was catastrophic. Directors and producers, unwilling to risk association, stopped calling. The roles that once flowed to him now dried up, leaving him fighting for relevance. For Bobby Sherman, still at the peak of his teen idol fame, the scandal threatened everything. He swiftly distanced himself, publicly denying the affair and portraying himself as a victim of rumor. His denial protected his career, but it left Sal utterly abandoned. For Mineo, the betrayal cut deep. He had risked his heart and his future for love, only to see it unravel in the most humiliating way possible. The affair with Bobby Sherman, once a source of warmth, ended as another chapter of pain and loss. Unlike his secret bond with James Dean, which remained cloaked in myth, this love was exposed, dissected, and weaponized by the media. The scandal not only deepened Sal's struggles with Hollywood's homophobia, but also accelerated the decline of a career that had once promised immortality. What should have been a private romance became another casualty of Hollywood's intolerance. Sal Mineo, forever vulnerable in love, was left with his reputation scarred and his spirit battered, while Bobby Sherman walked away, shielded by denial. The tragedy of their relationship lies not only in its exposure, but in how it showed the cruel cost of loving honestly in an era that demanded silence. Paul Newman with Sal Mineo, Secrets Untold. Of all the rumored romances in Sal Mineo's turbulent life, none was more dangerous or more heartbreaking than his alleged relationship with Paul Newman. The whispers began on the set of Exodus, 1960, where Mineo and Newman both admired for their striking looks and raw talent, worked closely together. Their chemistry was undeniable, and soon rumors spread that the two shared more than just a professional bond. Hollywood insiders hinted at late-night meetings and stolen moments. But in an era when a single headline could end a career, both men knew they were playing with fire. At one point, the press nearly broke the story. A reporter from a major outlet claimed to have enough evidence to expose the affair, but Warner Brothers, desperate to protect one of its most bankable stars, intervened. With money, influence, and threats, the studio buried the story before it reached print. For the world, Paul Newman remained the epitome of heterosexual charm, a family man and Hollywood legend. For Sal, the affair continued in the shadows, equal parts passion and peril. Despite the secrecy, Mineo would later confide to close friends, "Paul is the one I loved most." It was a rare admission of vulnerability from a man who had known both fame and rejection. For him, Newman represented not just romance but stability and admiration, a safe harbor in a world that often treated his sexuality as poison. Yet Newman, though affectionate, was never willing to risk his career, family, and image. In one particularly painful exchange, allegedly captured on tape, he told Mineo, "I love you, but not enough to lose everything." Mineo and Newman's love faded under Hollywood's pressure, leaving Mineo heartbroken. A mysterious tape of their conversation vanished posthumously. In the end, Sal Mineo's love for Paul Newman was perhaps his most dangerous romance, a love too powerful to ignore, yet too perilous to embrace openly. It highlighted not only the risks of same-sex relationships in mid-century Hollywood, but also the loneliness of a man who loved deeply in a world that demanded silence. For Mineo, Newman was both the greatest love and the greatest heartbreak, an affair written in secrecy, erased in tragedy, and immortalized in whispers that refused to die. The brief romance, Mineo and Brando. If Sal Mineo's love for Paul Newman was a dangerous secret and his bond with James Dean a tragic romance, then his connection with Marlon Brando was something else entirely, a fleeting but unforgettable affair. The story began after a glamorous Hollywood party in the early 1960s, where Brando, already a towering legend, encountered Mineo, the younger actor still fighting for recognition. Their chemistry was undeniable, a spark born from admiration and curiosity. What followed were a few nights of passionate intimacy, moments where Mineo believed he had touched another piece of greatness. For Sal, those encounters with Brando carried profound meaning. Brando was not just another actor. He was a force of nature, a symbol of everything Hollywood revered and feared. To be desired by him felt like validation, a recognition that he belonged among the giants of cinema. Yet Brando, infamous for his restless heart and inability to settle, treated the affair as nothing more than a passing indulgence. Almost as quickly as it began, he cut things off, leaving Sal with another scar on an already fragile heart. The abrupt ending devastated Mineo, who often invested his whole soul into relationships. To him, Brando's departure was not merely the end of a brief romance, but another reminder of how vulnerable he was in love. Time and again, Sal sought connection with men who could never fully commit, and each time the rejection deepened his sense of isolation. Confidential magazine hinted at Brando's involvement with Mineo, sparking industry gossip and secrets. Unlike his deeper loves with James Dean or Paul Newman, Sal's brief entanglement with Marlon Brando became a ghostly chapter in his life. Passionate, short-lived, and painful, it left him with both pride and regret, the pride of being chosen, however briefly, by a legend, and the regret of being discarded as though it meant nothing. In the end, the Brando affair was not a grand love story, but a fleeting encounter that underscored the fragility of Sal Mineo's heart in a Hollywood that never gave him the freedom to love openly. Whispers of Sal Mineo and Perkins. If Sal Mineo's affairs with James Dean, Paul Newman, and Marlon Brando revealed the hidden dangers of Hollywood's forbidden romances, then his rumored connection with Tony Perkins and Brandon DeWild was perhaps the most enigmatic. Whispers suggested that Paul Newman, himself tied to Mineo in complicated ways, had quietly introduced Sal to Perkins and DeWild, creating a triangle of secrecy among three rising stars. Perkins, already typecast as the tortured outsider, and DeWild, the boyish actor beloved since Shane, 1953, were both navigating Hollywood's suffocating expectations of masculinity. For Mineo, drawn to men who mirrored his own vulnerability, the connection felt both natural and perilous. Rumors reached their peak after reports surfaced of a clandestine meeting at a hotel in Beverly Hills. According to gossip insiders, Mineo, Perkins, and DeWild were spotted together, sharing not just a room but an intimacy that defied Hollywood's rigid norms. One tabloid even prepared to run the story, complete with suggestive details. But the issue was abruptly pulled before publication. Whether due to studio pressure or powerful agents protecting their stars, the report vanished almost as suddenly as it appeared. Yet its brief existence left enough sparks to ignite speculation. What made the story more compelling was the silence that followed. Neither Tony Perkins nor Brandon DeWild ever addressed the rumors. Perkins, who would later live much of his life in secrecy about his sexuality, maintained his public image while quietly enduring his private struggles. DeWild, whose career was marked by both early success and later decline, also never commented. Their refusal to acknowledge or deny the alleged bond with Mineo only deepened the mystery. For Hollywood gossip circles, silence was often louder than words. Sal faced secrecy and fear in relationships, risking his career. Ultimately, the story of Mineo, Perkins, and DeWild remains a ghostly footnote in Hollywood history, a tale too murky to confirm, yet too persistent to ignore. For fans and historians, it symbolizes the hidden networks of love and longing that existed beneath the surface of an industry obsessed with appearances. For Mineo, it was another reminder that his desires, however real, had to remain in the shadows, leaving behind only whispers of what might have been. Sal Mineo, Courtney Burr, and unseen loyalty. If Sal Mineo's earlier romances were marked by secrecy, passion, and heartbreak, his final love with Courtney Burr was defined by loyalty and quiet devotion. Unlike Mineo's famous partners, Courtney was not a Hollywood star. He was a dedicated acting coach, far from the glare of tabloids. Yet he became the anchor that steadied Sal in his most turbulent years. For 6 years, Courtney stood by him through career struggles, gossip scandals, and deep moments of despair, offering something rare in Mineo's life: unconditional care. On the night of February 12, 1976, that love met tragedy. Sal was attacked and fatally stabbed outside his West Hollywood home. It was Courtney who found him, rushed to his side, and made the desperate 911 call, his voice breaking as he cried, "The man I love has been killed." But instead of being recognized as Mineo's partner, Courtney was dragged into suspicion. In the cruel eyes of the media, he was painted as a possible suspect, his grief overshadowed by scandalous speculation. After the funeral, Courtney retreated into silence, shattered by both loss and public judgment. In a private letter, he poured out his anguish. "They think I survived, but I died the same night he did." Those words reflected the depth of his love and the unbearable weight of losing Sal, not only to violence, but also to a society that refused to honor their bond. For Courtney Burr, Mineo was not a scandal, not a headline, but the great love of his life, one whose death marked the end of his own spirit. The quiet death of fame. The tragic death of Sal Mineo left behind not only grief, but also a trail of unanswered questions. He carried with him countless secrets, affairs, scandals, and truths that Hollywood was never ready to face. On February 12, 1976, he was stabbed to death outside his home. And while the official story described it as a random act of violence, many still wonder if it was something more sinister. Was it an accident? Or was it Hollywood's way of cleaning up a man who knew too much? Mineo's life and death serve as a chilling reminder that Hollywood does not only kill with knives or guns, but also with silence, erasure, and the rewriting of memory. His story remains suspended between truth and myth, a warning of how an industry built on dreams can destroy those who live too honestly within it. If Sal Mineo's story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more untold Hollywood secrets and legacies.